Hello my lovely tea friends, it's Yulia here from EASTCOTT and BURGESS Tea. Today with me I've got
Victor
and Sasha. As you guys may have noticed, on our website we've got 3 Tie Guan Yin teas. We've got the Qing Xiang and 2 Qing Xiang. So for those of you trying to decide which tea should you go for, the Qing Xiang or one of the Qing Xiangs, we've decided to do a video for you explaining the main differences and similarities between the Qing Xiang and the Qing Xiang to help you decide. And then at the end of this video, Sasha will also do like a little interview with us where we will have sneak peeks of me and Victor's trip to China actually sourcing these teas. Let's begin. So the main difference is of course in the flavour. Victor, could you please explain to us what are the main differences between the Qing Xiang and Qing Xiang?
Yeah, so as Julia said correctly, it's basically just the flavour, but why the flavour is different? There are speculations that the tea has got its roots in Taiwan, that maybe it was catered for the green tea lovers. Qing Xiang involves less handshaking and more bamboo drum rolling, and it also involves greater temperature control. So because of that, Qing Xiang is normally considered to be a bit less oxidized, and Qing Xiang is rather more oxidized.
Yeah, so I'd actually like to elaborate on what Victor said. For me, the main differences in the flavour profile are that the Qing Xiang is far more fresh, it's vegetal, and it's got a lot of those cucumbery notes, whereas the Qing Xiang has few of those vegetal notes and more fruity notes. I think the main difference in their specific palate profile is that the Qing Xiang is far more subtle, delicate, but more complex, whereas the Qing Xiang is very aromatic, but probably a little bit simpler to understand.
Yeah. So now we will walk you through exactly what we mean by actually comparing the Qing Xiang and the Qing Xiang. We'll brew them at 2 different temperatures. So here we've got the 85 degrees Celsius, and these Qing Xiang and Qing Xiang will be brewed at 100 degrees Celsius. And the reason we are doing that is because the different temperatures bring out different flavor profiles in the 2 different teas, which is actually really interesting.
And just to briefly mention, we will be steeping them both for the same time, 14 seconds, and we'll be adding 4 seconds with every subsequent brew.
Correct?
Alright, so we've got the 100 degree C kettle here.
Ooh.
And 85 degree C kettle for Victor here.
So something I would like to say is the way we normally drink these teas is by warming up the gaiwan and then smelling the dry leaf, because then you can smell the dry leaf much better. But today we haven't done that just to save time.
2, 1, pour.
But what is the main difference between the 2 teas?
For me, it has to be that this is just like a lot fresher and a lot more vegetal. It's asparagus-y, it's cucumbery for me. I agree with Victor on that one. And whereas the Qing Xiang, I think it's definitely more subtle. I think it just is more fruity, but kind of like a fresh apricot, so not a dried apricot.
If I were to add to what Sasha just said, with Qing Xiang, especially with 100 degree Qing Xiang, it's just so obvious, it's so profound, you just taste it, you immediately get those vegetal cucumbery notes. It's like very, very clear. Whereas with Qing Xiang, you kind of have to listen to it. It's got a bit of sweet, a bit of savory notes, a bit of fruity notes, maybe even a bit of grassy notes. So they're all acting at the same time, so you just have to listen a bit more carefully, whereas with Qing Xiang it's just like so obvious.
I think for me the 85 degrees Celsius is more nectary, whereas the 100 degrees Celsius has got more of the savory notes, almost like butter. And
I agree, I've just tried the 100 degrees, yeah.
It's kind of like a double-edged tea.
Sword.
It's like a 2-faced tea, so you can get it to both sweet or savory, depending on how you brew it.
Do you want to guide us through the Qing Xiang?
Yeah, let's do Qing Xiang.
Alright.
Ooh,
Start with the liqueur.
Probably prefer Qing Xiang at 100.
Yeah.
I think so. I think the
that's
Qing
true.
Xiang I prefer at 85 because it's sweeter and more nectary, whereas the Qing Xiang I prefer at 100 because it's more intense, like it's meant to be. It's meant to be intense. So now we're going to max out these teas. We're going to see what's the maximum number of steepings they will hold, and then we will tell you how these teas change with subsequent steepings, because the Qing Xiang will really show different flavor profiles as we steep it. So let's do it! Steeping number 8. So we think that the Qing Xiang at 85 degrees C has maxed out around 8 steepings. Once again, you could probably keep drinking it. If you brewed it for longer, you could have a really, really good strong brew, but we decided to make this simpler. It's maxed out. support that.
So that's a big X. Let's
X.
put it out.
So Oolong Xiang.
Alright, so
I think-
one more.
I think Oolong Xiang you can keep drinking for quite a few brews, but the flavour won't change much from here. It's quite apricotty, quite nice and sweet. Guys, so for time-saving purposes, we've done this before and we can tell you that we found that you can drink this for about 12 brews, after which you can still continue drinking it, but we personally didn't like the flavour. So
I
you could
probably
do 12
even
brews.
sorry to interrupt, but I probably wouldn't even recommend it beyond 10. Yeah, it can do
Yeah.
12, but we personally like it up to 10, and
9
that's
or
it
10.
for us. Yeah.
But to summarize, the difference between the Qing Xiang and the Oolong Xiang with subsequent brews is that the Oolong Xiang evolves from a nectary flavor to more of an apricotty fruity flavor at 85 degrees C, whereas the Qing Xiang at all temperatures stays more or less constant in terms of the flavor profile, but just the flavor gradually decreases in intensity. So that's the difference between the tea.
At this point, I want to ask you guys a few questions because obviously I've heard a lot of their stories about their trip to China, and I'd like to know a little bit about kind of the origin of these teas. So, what I want to know is, what were the most memorable places and who were the most memorable people on your trip to Gande and Changkeng?
It's a good question.
That's a really
Do you want
good
to go first?
question. Yes, I think for me definitely Sujin Dui. So he's the person that sold us the Oolong Xiang tea.
做茶的人会做不会做，是这样，好。
So why was he most memorable? I guess just because he was so passionate, like their family, they were so friendly and so passionate about the tea making. We didn't expect that much of the tea. We liked the tea that we tried before, but it wasn't anything like, oh wow, this is amazing. Whereas at Sujin Dui's, we didn't expect anything. He was the first tea master on that day. We came to him at like 7 in the morning. And we were just really blown away by the tea, like the flavor of the tea was just so lovely. And I think we hadn't had the Oolong Xiang that was just as good after that. And Sujin Dui's tea is actually here, Oolong Xiang. It's this one. We really love this tea. And also I was really blown away by just how passionate they were about tea making. Like they were really genuine, really friendly, really happy people. And they never tried to actually sell us tea. Like I got that impression like they didn't care if we bought their tea or not, because to be honest, it felt like they didn't really need the money because they lived high up in the mountains. So even if they had all the money in the world, it wouldn't have changed their life. They were just so happy making the tea. And then
Do you remember when we returned in the evening? They were just like still buzzing.
yeah, I was going to say, I think that's when I realized just how lovely the atmosphere was. They were like super busy at about 10 o'clock at night, still making their tea, and they were like shaking the leaves, and they were in the bamboo baskets, and we all had a go at shaking the leaves. And it was just so much fun, and everybody was laughing, even though we couldn't understand a lot of what was said because they were speaking Minnan. They were probably laughing at us. But they gave us lots of food as well, which is just so nice. It was just lovely. How about you, Victor?
Yeah, I think now that you've talked about food and their hospitality, is just really one of those things that stuck in my mind. I remember Su Wenji and his cousin, they just without
they
really
were
expecting anything from us, they just took us to their mother's place, and we drank one Oolong Xiang after another, and
That's
then
true, yeah.
they showed us their garden. Then they took us for dinner, and they refused for us to pay for it, even pay for our portion.
Yeah,
And
that
we
was
just
so
almost
nice.
felt a little bit bad for not quite liking their tea. But yeah, it was just obvious to us. We were expecting the nectary, the fruity notes, but they just weren't quite there. It was just so faint, and unfortunate, I think, because they were also selling their tea in Xiamen, it was just quite frankly
think-
quite expensive.
Yeah, it was a lot more expensive than Sujin Dui's, even though it came from a lower altitude, not so far from Sujin Dui's. And their tea garden wasn't quite as pristine, it was quite artificial. I think for me it was also the guys in Changkeng, so they had the best Qing Xiang.
Okay.
So basically when we were in the mountains,
Wait, are
nobody...
they is that who?
Qing Xiang, yeah, this one.
Yes.
Okay.
These.
All right.
So we went all the way to Qing Xiang, and like a little village, Mawei village, Wamei village near Qing Xiang, and we found this family, and they were just so busy. Like the whole family were really hands-on making their tea, and they didn't even notice us. Like once again, I think it was the fact that they were all so genuine that really blew us away. The fact that they didn't try to sell us their tea.
I think they just didn't have time.
Yeah, it was like the tea was more important to them than we were, even though we were meant to be their clients. So they didn't even try to sell us the tea. And then when we came back, returned at like 11 at night, they were still all super busy making their tea, which is quite unusual.
Do you reckon that's a case of like the tea selling itself, so they don't have to try to sell to you because the tea sells itself?
Maybe. That's true.
I think we're almost a little
But
bit
like the
disappointed.
other people were selling their tea, like, so what we're going
Yeah,
to say?
we're almost a bit disappointed because can we just take a quick photo with you? And they just like, no, we just didn't have time. We just don't have time for it. They just wanted to run to their bamboo drums to make sure that at 3 minutes they just take the leaves out. For the next
Yeah, they're
batch.
just really busy.
Yeah, but what you're talking about is tea selling itself. Yeah, we had I think another memorable one was a Lady Bling. I'll explain why we called her like that. But there was almost the exact opposite of them, like really almost desperately trying to sell tea to us, and it all looked just so staged and so I don't know, almost perfect in a way. They had a huge house, they had all the equipment to process Tie Guan Yin from start to finish. The husband was hustling around the house as it normally is in Chinese families. The husband is the master making the tea, and the lady was selling it, and she was nicely dressed up, prepared traditional Chinese attire, clothes. She had or the necklaces, earrings, all the beautiful jewelry. She met us with a broad smile. We started drinking her Qing Xiang, and then when we asked, could we see your tea garden, she was like, oh yeah, of course, here are the pictures, the photos for you. Yeah, then, well, but could we go and see it? Oh no, here it is. It's somewhere there.
It's too far away. No, you can't see it. Oh, why not? Oh, I don't understand.
Yeah, but I think the point there was that we tried a few of her Qing Xiangs, and they just all
watery.
Yeah, they were quite watery. And they had a bit of sweetness and that asparagus notes, but they were just so watery.
It's also interesting that the people with the worst tea were the only ones that were able to export.
Yeah.
And the people with the best teas, because they were also the growers, it just so happened, unsurprisingly, I guess, none of them could export. They didn't even bother like shipping it around China because people came to them. I think they were just like really specialized in making. I think so. They were just really specialized in making the tea, which was cool.
And then, hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope you it
it's
helped
my
you
channel.
decide. All right.
Yeah, go on.
Okay guys, I hope you really loved this video. I hope now you know whether you want the Qing Xiang or the Long Xiang, and now you know which temperature to brew each tea is best for you. Thank you so much for watching. Please like this video if you want to see more videos like this. Share this video with your friends, and please obviously subscribe. And we'll see you again next week. Thanks so much for watching.
Bye.
Bye. Ciao.